Hello. Hello, hello, you damnable rats. How's it going today? We've got a special treat for you today on Scaredy Cat Monthly. We're going to be checking out the interactive walkthrough. No big risks here, so it should be an easier breeze for fourth. Of Dagon. Recently released on the 24th of September this year. We'll be checking it out. It's a walkthrough, as I already said, of the original story by H.P. Lovecraft, which is fully narrated. So this will be an interesting experience for everyone involved, and should hopefully be a little easier on that coward's heart. That said, I'll be handing off now, so we'll be moving over in just a moment. I expect you all on your best behavior in the comments and in the chat. I will get you if you try anything.
Hello? 1 second. Okay. Hi. I'm ready. Hi. How high up should I get? Okay, about there works, I think. You can see our little meow peeking his head out. Hello, everyone. Like Forrest said, we're gonna be checking out Dagon today. Let me move the screen over. We're in black and white for aesthetic. I don't think the game's in black and white, though. Okay. Well, and you can see there's not a lot on the screen right now. Let's move over a little bit. But we're actually gonna move things over a little bit for you guys, just in case, because there's gonna be a lot of subtitles. You know that much. I don't want you guys to miss anything. Hey. Here. Whee! Okay. This is a good thing about having stuff in pieces. Where's our goal? Oh yeah, we have a new goal. If you're on Twitch, Scaredy Cat, outside of our monthly streams like right now, is usually based off of... That seems really dark. Hold on. Is usually based on donation goals. So if you ever see a random playthrough pop up, that's why. Our current one is for Zoe and Not a Hero from RE7, which are the canon important edition DLC additions they made. So if we hit that goal at some point, we'll play through those for a special stream. Okay. With that in mind, let's make sure that was weird. Let me make sure real quick. Voiceover, sounds, inventory, language. Okay, they don't have anything for subtitles, so I assume those are on by default because it would be silly if they weren't. Right. With that in mind, we're gonna get started. We don't know a lot about this story, or about Lovecraft in general, but apparently he likes eldritch things, so that's cool. Dagon is a faithful, interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management. Movement is limited to progressing through locations along the plot.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Oh, I have to click A to... During the game, you'll encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey. Others reveal interesting facts about the original short story and a historical background. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the Elder sign. Okay, so that little twig look. That's what we're looking for, chat. For those of you that are here on the Twitch, you can interact with me as we go through. I will try to keep interaction a little bit limited, though, for you guys on YouTube. You can also access all the found facts later. They'll be available in the main menu.
Okay, so that moves us along.
It looks like
I can't quite look at anything. Oh!
ah! The Seeker achievement unlocked. As to letters, my case is peculiar. I write such things exactly as easily and as rapidly as I would utter the same topics in conversation. Indeed, epistolary expression is with me largely replacing conversation, as my condition of nervous prostration becomes more and more acute. I cannot bear to talk about much now, and am becoming as silent as the spectator himself. My loquacity extends itself on paper. H.P. Lovecraft to Reinhard Klein on December 23rd, 1917. Throughout his life, Lovecraft penned around 100,000 letters to friends and fans, out of which about 10% survived to this day. But his tendency to endlessly correspond was a relatively late growth. In youth, I scarcely did any writing. Thankfully, anybody for a present was so much of an ordeal that I would rather have written a 250-line pastoral, or 25-page treatise of the rings of Saturn. Lovecraft would often skip meals to afford postage. Collections of his correspondence have been published in various books, and selective letters can be found online. Some readers can consider them his most important legacy.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
Ooh, that's not good. By the way, let us know how everything sounds, for those of you that are here.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Ooh? Morphine. Morphine entered in... They're really giving us information on morphine. Okay, chat, you're gonna learn. Morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War of 1861 to 1865 and the World War of 1914 to 1918. It was also sold without restrictions until 1914. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Frederick Cerner, who first insulated the substance, originally named it morphine, after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as soldier's disease, was already posed a big problem in the United States. Hopefully there's not too many of
It was
those.
in one of
Whoa!
the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Anything else around here? Alright, nope. On we go. Woo!
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had
This
not
water looks really
completely
nice.
sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
So they got taken prisoner. Oh. The Huns. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who first established a dominion in Europe and invaded. Wait, they're actually talking about like the Huns? And invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans. Ah, okay. in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated from the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on the 27th of July, 1900, before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls to your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago, the Huns, under their King Attila, made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed to you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. Oh, that's mean. That's horrible. A reminder, anything we read out loud or that's said was written a long time ago by a pretty racist dude who later regretted his actions, by the way, and tried to work around that. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Wow, so they sucked at their job. Anything else? No. The noises in the background are really good.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
Ooh. Yeah, this is a little dire. Not
Never
liking
a competent
that.
navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
That's really pretty over there, by the
Of
way.
the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Nah. Thanks for showing off the game. I was
The
wondering
weather
what it
kept
was like.
fair, and for uncounted days I drifted
pretty neat so
aimlessly
far.
beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
Where are we looking now? Ah.
But neither ship
Ooh.
nor land appeared, and I
Oh.
began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept.
Mm-hmm.
Its details I shall never know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Oh. Okay. Squids. Everywhere.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see,
Oh, that's the boat.
and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away.
That one squid got screwed
Though one
over.
might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
Yeah, I would be
For
too.
there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Ugh, the squishing noises.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
I don't think so, dude.
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
Is that a flounder? Okay.
For
a
several
little
hours
tense.
I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea.
Off
On
we
the
go.
third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Oh, just all over the hill, huh? Ugh, I hate that noise. It's bad.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
These things are no longer fish. Like, yeah, this is getting fucked. Whale! Big crab. Oh, mountain. What's over here?
That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
What the fuck are these? Okay.
By the fourth
Yeah,
evening,
we're almost there.
I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance.
Yeah, that's a mountain.
An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
Mistake.
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night. But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain,
So we might have read Gibbous as girl boss. Anyway,
I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
well, it depends on how cold it is.
Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence. I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon,
Oh.
whose black recesses the moon had
Oh.
not yet soared high enough to illuminate.
Yeah, that just goes forever.
I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular, as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
You really going down here, dude? We really going down here?
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the
So
gentler
dark.
slope beneath,
I think there's something
gazing
over there.
into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured
Yeah,
by a
I was
vast
right.
and singular object on the
It's a
opposite slope,
monolith.
which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Bum. Bum.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
You never trust a monolith.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
Oh, there's water down there.
A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
So the
For
monolith.
despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Really hate that squish.
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across
Tiny
the chasm,
pool.
the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics
Yo!
unknown to me,
Squid
and
man.
unlike anything I'd ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like.
All those sharks.
Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Oh, continue or storytelling methods. I was wondering when we were gonna get more of these. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness in the Nameless City, journeys and characters' notes in The Shadow Out of Time and The Haunter of the Dark, islands emerging from the ocean in The Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies, such as Migo in The Whisperer of Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon. Let's skip the details so we don't spoil the ending.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters
Yo,
of some marine
merman.
grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint.
Yeah, that's Lovecraft, alright.
Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
Oh yeah, those aren't good.
They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
Oh, that's big. Don't.
I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe.
Dude, you're in the middle of like a black mud zone
Some
in an
tribe
abyss
whose
at
last
the bottom of
descendant
an
had
endless
perished
mountain.
eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
Huh?
With only a slight
Uh-oh.
churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Unexpected and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
I don't like this anymore. Yeah,
I
let's
think
go
I
away
went
now.
mad then.
Oh no.
Of my frantic ascent of the sloping cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
You ran all the way back?
I believe
Woo!
I sang a great deal, and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows,
Huh?
I was in a San Francisco hospital,
Huh?
brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe. Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Yeah, here we go. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akht, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in the Assyrian poem, and an underworld prison warden in one of the Babylonian texts. He's often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew, the word Dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He's worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Those guys were on Ben 10.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and apologist who also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through the company's name, Arkham House. That's where Arkham comes from. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's notes, after his death he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It's also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. So that guy fucked it all up. Okay. Spooky. I'm glad it chilled out a little bit. I wasn't ready for the big monster.
It is at
Oh,
night,
we're back here again.
especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Lovecraft on tobacco and alcohol. He hates it, even though he used to smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with his friend Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Azalea Brown, dated 13th February 1928. For the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor, nor intend to, having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which bloods at courtesans, the delicate natural equipoise of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favor of prohibition, the prohibition of any one antisocial force, as well as any other. Source: The Spirit of Revision, Lovecraft's Letters to Zelia Brown, Reed Bishop, H.P. Lovecraft, Sean Brainy, and Andrew Lehman, S.T. Joshi.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
On we go. I'm getting a little dire.
The end is near.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
No. No, don't do that.
It shall not find me. God, that hand! The window! The window!
Get the fuck out. Ooh. Well. We hope you enjoyed immersing yourselves in our little pool of cosmic horror. We'd appreciate if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out the other games and DLCs. That was cute. That was a short little... Like, I didn't expect it to be very long. That was a short little thing. That was fun, though. Alright, we've only been live for like an hour, so we're gonna switch over to something else. Let me see what I have available. A lot of Lovecraft stories are short stories.